Welcome to Pharmacy View, Technology and Pharmacy Business podcast series, where we provide regular interviews with pharmacists and key industry people within the Australian pharmacy and associated industry. In each podcast, we look to discuss aspects of pharmacy operation and how technology is improving or interacting with each guest's current role or pharmacy-related business. I'm your host, Scott Carpenter, and today's guest is sponsored by Shopfront Solutions, leading the way in digital marketing and communications, providing a cloud-based platform for pharmacies to manage all of their digital messaging and print-based collateral. For more information on the Shopfront Solutions digital platform, simply go to the website at shopfrontsolutions.com.au. You know, I've actually wandered through my life journey, having been a Star Trek and Star Wars, I guess, aficionado or to a point a junkie. At what point in time in today's age does the whole body scan technology come to fruition? And here we are. Welcome to Pharmacy View Technology and Business podcast series, where I'm talking to Alex Ferguson, CFO and COO at Evolt IOH, headquartered here in Australia. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks, Scott. Great to be here.
My pleasure. Now, again, you and I have had the opportunity and potentially the pleasure to work together for a period of time at Terry White Chemists in the Brisbane office. But for our listeners today that may not know you, who is Alex Ferguson?
Sure. So, born and bred on the Gold Coast in Australia. I worked for several years as a chartered accountant. Moved overseas, as most people do at that age when they graduate, and spent 3 years in London and then 3 years in Canada, in Toronto, in the finance industry, before returning to Terry White, actually, in Brisbane. And since then, I've been in FMCG and in the retail space for some time. Recently, the last few roles moving into CFO roles combined with the COO job, and of late being with Evolt has allowed me to get back into that health segment, and more importantly, try and see how technology can help that segment dramatically in the future, which, you know, I just think is so exciting.
Yeah, no, for sure. And if we can just jump back a sec, you're right. One of the things that I noticed on your, I guess, resume or career, for want of a better description, is that you've been working in this CFO, COO role, which, whilst it's not unique, it would be significantly different to just crunching the numbers, wouldn't it?
100%. It gives you the opportunity to see the business from the inside out. So not just the numbers, but you know, operationally how everything works, right down to the warehouse picking, packing of stock. So yeah, look, it's great to get an overall view of a company if you can sit in that operational space as well. Similar to what you were doing at Terry
Yeah, no,
White.
for sure. And I guess that's, you know, the analogy here would be is that as a CFO, you might be giving guidance or you're responsible for the finances of the company. As the COO, you're actually giving yourself guidance as to whether you can afford the wages in the warehouse, aren't you?
Yeah, so there's always that balancing act, and I guess being the holder of the purse strings, but also needing to execute for the customers. There's always that balancing act to make sure that you can do it in the best possible way.
And look, I'm sure for any of your ex-colleagues that are listening today, and I'm sure there'll be a few of them, including, I might add, Alex, I was just doing the numbers on the podcast before we came on again today, and our third largest country for listeners is actually Canada, interestingly enough, on this podcast. So I should say welcome to everyone that's listening from Canada, amongst the other countries that do listen onto this. So, Alex, Evolt IOH, I guess, came across my books earlier this year. We caught up around APP, or I started having a bit of a chat about this because you changed roles. It was interesting that it all happened at the same time because I was actually at APP with Guy Leach, and whilst I'm sure it may not have been your product, Guy and I were walking past the shops across from the APP, the convention centre, and there's a small gym there where the trainer had two people hooked up to a machine. And again, I'm pretty sure it's not your machine, but I guess what I said to Guy, who is obviously, you know, one of Australia's fitness junkies and well known for his Ironman capabilities on the Gold Coast, the reality is that this age of moving people from here's my symptoms, and having someone telling you that potentially this could be what's going on, but I want you to go and do some tests, to actually hooking you up to a machine in a gym to give you guidance about, you know, where your body's at, what it could be currently experiencing, and as we saw potentially in the short video at the beginning of this, is a new age, isn't it? This is technology and healthcare in a real blend. Talk to us about, I guess, your connection with them, your journey with them, and the product where it is today.
Sure. Well, our product is three parts to it. So the actual technology has been around for some time, bioimpedance technology. So where we're sending that electrical current through the body to assess a whole bunch of benchmarks. What we've done differently, though, is added a whole layer of content and software across that data to make it accessible. So not only pinging that data directly into the cloud from the machine, so it's accessible from anywhere, but also if, for instance, we're working with a large group of even pharmacies, the head office can consolidate that data and look at some really interesting trends, demographics, who's the fittest city, state, etc. And also keep a good eye on, their members, their customer base, and try and help them wherever they can. But really, it's not just the hardware; it's the software that allows the B2B partner to access that data, and then we've also got an app that the end user, the actual customer, can keep on their phone or their device. And that's where it keeps them honest to, if they're working on a training plan or a nutrition plan. We know that nutrition's a very large element in, a healthy lifestyle. So having that honesty or keeping them honest through having access to that data live is a very important thing.
So I think, as I'm aware, at the moment, your unit, so the hardware unit as such, a person could potentially invest in one of these and put one in their home gym if they wanted to. I'm sure there's probably a little bit of money involved in that. But you've got a good coverage at the moment through some of the big gym brands around the countryside, where obviously there's this connection of if you go in and as well as doing your gym session, you can actually have this body analysis done, if that's the right term.
That's right. So we've got quite a lot of gyms on board. So we do work in many verticals, not just gyms, health and fitness, but also in government, in pharmacy, in allied health. But at the moment, or initially, our fitness and health gyms area is the space we focused on. We've signed one of the largest fitness or the largest gym chain in the world, Anytime Fitness. They've got over 5,000 locations. And they're using this data to make sure that they can keep their members engaged, because in that market they lose about 40% of their sign-up members each year. So member engagement and again keeping the members honest and their data flowing to that gym is very important to try and make sure they can help their customers.
And I guess that's it. It's giving the trainers or the business operators in those arenas some greater level of information on their client or their customer, isn't it? And as you said, retention's pretty important. Alex, you and I were chatting just before we started podcasting here that there is a connection with pharmacy, which is where this podcast, I guess, tends to present into, and there's some trials in place, or there's been some trials in place with these units into pharmacy. But the reality is, if I took the example that we were discussing, that is that I've got two adult sons in their 30s now. The reality is that they're both fit and healthy, and they've probably spent more time in gyms than in a pharmacy. So how do we actually, or what's the opportunity to make the connection there? And I think that same thing, if you're looking at younger pharmacists, I'm not saying that older pharmacists are not fit and healthy. I just don't think it's necessarily been part of the regime that in our day that the younger subset are. So there's a good chance that the majority of younger pharmacists are also attending gyms and would be starting to see these units actually in their gym. So there's an opportunity for pharmacists to then talk to the gym operators, because as you mentioned before, nutrition and supplements, I guess, is key, or is a connection here. if I refer to my sons again, they would probably come away from the gym, go online and order any products that they needed online. But if there was a connection with their pharmacy, then potentially they would be coming out of their gym and to their pharmacy to get any nutrients or supplements that they need. Is that a fair connection?
I think it is. Where part of the content we provide when we print out what we call our results sheet is a whole bunch of recommendations on potential supplements. So we've got quite a lot of data on micro macronutrient statistics, and you based on a member's or a customer's body composition and the goals that they want to set themselves, whether that be through a training program or a nutrition program. We can help them with providing supplement recommendations. So it goes hand in hand with, for instance, a pharmacy who, is a retailer selling those products.
Yeah, and not only that, the extension for this from the pharmacy point of view is that if there is something wrong, so on the basis that someone's fit and healthy and not on unnecessary medication, then it's probably just managing their body through the process. But let's work on the basis that 1 in 3 people attending a gym are probably also unwell at some point in time, and are also visiting a pharmacy or visiting a GP for other medical advice. And I think I just come back to the opening of this. This is a Star Trek, Star Wars minute. This is where a body is being scanned with an electrical impulse to give the end user a readout as to their body at that point in time. And then I guess when they go back again and have another scan, then there's the opportunity to tell you whether things have been better or potentially worse, and therefore what's the remedial action. This is where we're going with this technology, isn't it?
We focus our scanners for our business customers first and foremost, so it's got a range of additional benefits. But when we look at the data we provide, over 40 benchmark data points, some of them are just so important to what we see as health or lifestyle-caused diseases that attribute huge statistics when we come to our health population and problems. So seeing things like visceral fat, the fat element that sits around vital organs. So we're not just looking at subcutaneous fat, the fat that you would get from a skin fold test from many years ago. Looking deeper into some of the critical things, so looking at protein mass, lean body mass, skeletal mass, muscle mass, and particularly visceral fat. Just adds a whole new way of assessing someone's health. And seeing, before it gets to be too big an issue and being able to intervene.
Yeah. And again, this is a specific subset of parameters that it's scanning for, isn't it? So you mentioned 40 items. I'm not going to get you to list all 40 because I'm sure I could find them on the website. But ultimately, if something in that kind of goes out of what you would call the benchmark parameters, then there's the chance for either the gym operator or even yourself to be aware, hang on, there's something going on here and potentially you need to go and see your pharmacist or your GP.
That's right. So the amount of data we're collecting worldwide just gives us access to trends and patterns and being able to really show those kind of patterns and if something needs to be done quickly. But there's just so many pieces of data we can attribute. So we're looking at for each limb we can tell muscle mass, or if there's a loss of muscle mass in any one side of a leg or an arm. So our allied health professionals, for example, chiro or physios, can use it for that means. There's just a huge amount of data that really needs to be integrated with our health system. And again, I think pharmacies is a great, a big piece
involved in that. And again, you mentioned before around, I guess this is capturing data on people, and I'm sure there's a level of confidentiality about this. We'll take that as a given in terms of who can access the data. You mentioned before that if I'm a client of one of these gyms or one of these outlets, I've got an app on my phone which is actually giving me access to my data. But from a demographics point of view, if we took a pharmacy's case, if this was in a pharmacy or in a gym in a suburb, you're actually capturing data on the demographics of that suburb, which could create its own level of information, couldn't it? Like, there's obviously, it comes down or it waterfalls down. You've got internationally, nationally, state, and then and then whether it's metro or regional, you could actually be identifying health opportunities for individuals based on where they're living?
100%. We had a news article the other day actually on Channel 9, and we showed that out of southeast Queensland, for example, the healthiest area was actually the Gold Coast. Second I think was the Sunshine Coast, and then we had Brisbane and Logan. So again, the data tends to not lie when you've got a large volume of it to back up those patterns.
Yeah. And look, Alex, I think this is a really good opportunity to name drop, because I did see in a little article you actually had someone relatively famous involved with your product a month or so ago. Do you want to tell us about that, how that came about?
Sure. Look, it was news to us that we had Sir Richard Branson put on his blog, his own personal blog. He loves the Evolt machine. He came across it on the new Virgin Voyages cruise ship that was launched, and he scored a 10 out of 10. So with our content, we give everyone our own BWI health score, which is patented. But he got a 10 out of 10, which not many people see. I think the trainer on that cruise ship has performed thousands and thousands of scans, not just on the ships, but in gyms, and has never seen one. So he was pretty excited. He actually went as far as saying that it's the most impressive piece of equipment on the whole cruise ship.
Okay.
Which is something.
No, for sure from that perspective. So we've mentioned, I guess, places that you may be able to access this. So this is obviously national and international, your locations with these units now, but expanding every day.
Look, it is. We're in now over 26 countries. So we've got a headquarters on the Gold Coast. We've got secondary headquarters in South Carolina in the US. And we've got distributors in most of the large countries across the globe and growing. So we're building up to quite a big 2022. We're just about to close pre-IPO funding, so with a view to listing on the Australian Stock Exchange next year in 2022. Yes. And that will allow us to, really to fulfil the growth that we're seeing in demand, not just here in Australia, but particularly North America, Europe, and in Asia.
So I mentioned that we've obviously got some overseas listeners, but we'll come back here to Australia for the minute. So within Australia, located in some units available in every state of Australia at the moment, or are you specifically located in areas at the moment?
No, every state, all of the major cities, and across a wide number of not just gym chains. As I said, we're in Allied Health, we're in some pharmacies. We're doing some trials at the moment with a couple of very large pharmacy groups, and we're also in what we call the corporate segment. So a lot of large corporates will have a wellness policy and a program to keep their staff well. So we're in companies from the accountants, KPMG, to Virgin, to some of the large miners, Newcrest, Fortescue, BHP. So a lot of very large corporate partners are using our program as well, particularly for their staff wellness program.
So if someone listening today wanted to go and have a look at one of the units live, and we'll include in our show notes your contact details, your LinkedIn and your website details. Our locations, can I type in on your website, where can I find one of these units?
You sure can. So it's all there at the website. And growing.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be from that perspective. So that's, I guess, current. What does the future look like in this technology space? Again, I'm not going to ask you to breach any confidentiality here or give away any trade secrets, but I'm going to work on the basis that this has been a bit of a journey to get to where you are today, that you can share.
Yeah, look, there's just so much in this space. It's forever changing and quickly. So, we're at the moment looking at a lot of AI and machine learning to try and use that data as best we can. We've got a huge technology pipeline of what we're working on at the moment, but we regularly talk about in the office, we can see the next year, maximum 2 years, but probably what will be the big ticket items that will take us even to the next step in year 3 and onwards. We can't even guess that. It's things change so quickly. So it's just so exciting to be around, and particularly because it's health. We know we're helping people.
Yeah, and I think on that basis too, as you were chatting, then I just suddenly realised that any business within a local community that is doing something to help people with their health and wellness, gets my tick of approval, because I think that's an arena that I didn't necessarily look after myself that well when I was younger, but I'm certainly doing it now. Of where we're heading, there's an opportunity for pharmacies to chat with either their group. Are they doing something with you guys at the moment? Are they in conversation with you guys? Because it could be that there's a trial out there that a member listening today doesn't know about. Alternatively, I know that there's a contact us button on your website that they can touch base as well from that perspective.
For sure. As I said, we are doing a couple of large trials at the moment with a view to doing potential rollouts early next year. But of course, any business can contact us, and in certain cases would be really excited to work with pharmacy customers.
That's thanks. Now, Alex, we're coming to the end of our time, which has been great to chat. I've got a feeling that you and I are going to chat again probably in 8 or 9 or 10 months' time, because I've got a feeling that there's more coming out about this, and certainly it'll be a case of anyone listening today to watch your IPO. But is there anything else on your list that we haven't discussed today?
Look, I think we've covered some good ground, but as I say, keep a watch on us. And 2022 is going to be a big year for Evolt, and hopefully we can help more people.
Alex, as I mentioned, we'll include your contact details in our show notes for anyone listening today that wants to get in contact with you. But outside of that, it's been really good to chat today. It's been great to stay connected through this time, and I look forward to staying as part of your journey, I guess, over the next year or two, and see what happens.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Scott.
No problems at all. Thank you for listening today. Pharmacy View is a technology-focused podcast provided by Melbourne-based business Arian Technologies and Shopfront Solutions. Over the podcast series, our guests include pharmacists, retail managers, wholesalers, suppliers, and industry technology partners. If you would like further information on our podcast series or to participate in one of our episodes, feel free to send me a message or touch base through the Pharmacy View website, pharmacyview.com.au.